Producing TV news, the coach of the newscast. What is a TV producer? A producer fills a broadcast with news content. A very key person similar to being a football coach. Decides which stories to run and how to deal with the story. So why be a producer? Well, there are many openings. If you're good, you can write your own ticket. Pay at major markets is very similar to what reporters there make. The keys to being a good producer: a good writer, excellent people skills and news judgment, and enjoy leading teams of people. Producer duties: you have to precisely time the broadcast. The newscast can't run long or short. Choose the right mix of stories. Working with assignment desk and news manager producer comes up with correct news coverage based on the day's news, community needs, and the station news philosophy. Place stories in correct order in the rundown, known as filling the rundown or completing the lineup, a spreadsheet-like form listing the stories in chronological order that they will air and the form they will air, such as a reader, a VO, a VOSAT, or a package. More producer duties: you work with the director and the production crew to get the newscast on the air. Cooperation is essential between those entities. You have to write copy and write it well. Edit the copy for fairness, accuracy, tone, coherence, and storytelling, as well as for libel and privacy concerns. Order or create the graphics. Scan the wires, that would be the news wires and network feeds, also the internet. More producer duties: you have to work with the assignment desk, or in some instances be the desk. It's essential in covering breaking news. Sometimes if you're an overnight producer, there are no assignment desks for the overnight folks, so you will be also running the desk. You have to show leadership. Producer is a big picture person, sees all the parts fitting together, and like a symphony conductor, orchestrate everyone's efforts to achieve a quality product. Contribute to a positive and productive work environment. Here are columns in a typical news rundown. The page number keeps the scripts in proper order. The news blocks are alphabetized. The scripts are in block number. The slug is the daily title for each individual story. It could be labeled separately. For example, the Rogers trial is the lead of the story. P for the Rogers trial stands for package, verbatim. T for the Rogers trial stands for the tag, or Rogers intro, package, and tag. Here are some more references to a typical rundown. A and C contains the name of initials of the anchor reading the story. Shot is information about how many people are framed in the camera shot for a given story and whether the graphic is part of the shot. The choices might include, for example, a one shot is one anchor on camera, centered, no graphic, also known as head and shoulders or H&S shot. A two shot, two anchors on camera, centered, no graphic. OTS, one anchor on camera, framed to have a graphic position over the shoulder. A three shot, three anchors on camera, usually two news people and a weather person, or two news and a sports person. A wide person, all anchors on camera, for example, a sports person, two news people, and a weather person. CK, one anchor at the chroma keyboard or a plasma TV shot. Double box is a shot typically with an anchor framed in one box and a reporter usually out in the field in the other box for question and answer. Three box, same as above with three boxes, typically an anchor and two reporters or interview guests. A wipe is an indication that you'll be going to the next story with a video wipe instead of returning to the anchor. Type describes the type and format of a story. The basic possibilities include the intro, the anchor or reporter read copy preceding a package. A tag, the anchor or reporter read copy following the package. A tossback, similar to a tag but usually includes two or more people with a question and answer opportunity. A reader is an anchor on camera reading copy with no video or graphics, not a package or a live shot intro. And a VO is a voiceover. The anchor reads the copy under video on screen. Continuing with typical rundown, a VOB stands for also VOSAT or VO bite, for voiceover with soundbite. It indicates an anchor will read the copy for portions of it. The audience will see the video, and the anchor will pause while the audience hears interview excerpts with sound up full. Bite or SOT, the same as above, except that no video will precede the interview. VONAT, same as VOB, except that the anchor will pause for natural sound recorded in the field of something other than the interview, for example, a crowd chanting, a space shuttle countdown, etc. WR, now this column contains the name of the writer assigned to the story. Runs contains a running time for the story or story segment. Whether or WX would be a segment. Give it a block time even though there are many elements. The following are running time examples, as you can see for the reader, VO, VOB, different times for different categories. Back time. This column is critically important. Prior to the newscast, it shows the producer whether the newscast appears to be properly filled. During the newscast, a constant check of this column tells the producer whether the show is light, not enough material to stretch to the off time, or heavy. Some material might have to be dropped to end on time, also known as being short or long. It's computerized nowadays to make it much easier for producers. In the past, they used to have a stopwatch in their hand, and it was much more difficult back then. Here's how a producer builds a newscast. The typical basic format of local news. For example, there's an A block, which is hard news, then break 1 is 2 minutes, that's commercials. B block, softer news, break 2, 2 minutes, more commercials. The C block is weather, break 3 of commercials. D block, sports, and break 4, yeah, you guessed it, 2 minutes worth of commercial. And the E block is the kicker block, and the terminal break is 1:10. That's the very end of the newscast. Let's take a look at a newscast rundown example. A00, the newscast open, and you can see what is involved. The type is a VTR SOT. It runs 20 seconds, and the back time is 15 seconds. And just go on down the line of the stories that are in the A block. We have OTS, we have packages, we have VOs, VOSOTs, on, and that'll be encompassing the A block of this particular newscast. Continuing with this newscast rundown example, the rest of the A block until we get to the number 1 tease. That's to tease what's coming up in the next block. And then you have break 1, which is the 2-minute commercial break. And then as you can see, coming out of that break, we have the second segment, which is called the B block. As the newscast rundown example continues, we have the B block, and then we go into break 2, which is for commercials. The C block is a weather toss to the weather person. You have a 3-shot, as you can see, on row C10. You have the 2 anchors tossing to the weather person. And then the weather person gives their forecast. Come back to the 3-shot of the 3 anchors sitting at the desk, and then a tease for a water park opening. And then you have break 3, and then you have sports, same concept as the weather. You have the 3 sitting at the desk, and then they toss it to the sports guy who gives the sports, and then it continues to break 4. Finishing up the newscast example rundown, you have the E block, which is usually a nice, funny, fuzzy story at the end of the newscast, and then the terminal break means the very end where you have the music, and sometimes if you have time you would have credits. Now, if you're under 15 seconds, you can let the music roll on the closing of the show longer, or just before the goodbye, tell the anchors they can chat a bit. If you're really short, as a producer, you have an extra VO ready to roll. If over on time, tell the anchors to make it short on the close, play the music shorter amount of time, or just eliminate the music. And some producer tips. The teases, they are sales pitches. Make them interesting so the viewer will keep watching your newscast. Deliver what you promise in the tease. Don't bore the viewer. And one final tip. If you have a tease and you get to the end of the newscast and you haven't done the story, you better do the story. At least mention something about the story. Because if you tease the viewer and you don't deliver and give that story, they're not going to be very happy.